We have challenges to meet.
Special election for governor, no later than November 15th.
I am the spouse of a United States service member scheduled to be deployed to Afghanistan. Vote by mail pilot project.
The votes are now in.
For the first time ever, the SEC webcast their regular meeting live.
The National Association of Secretaries of State held its annual summer conference in West Virginia.
Redistricting.
What happens now?
Thank you all so much.
We must set aside our personal and political agendas and put West Virginia first. We have challenges to meet, opportunities to create, and a future with great potential. Join me in making this legislative session one to remember for the positive things we achieved and how we all came together for the betterment of our state.
The state Supreme Court ruled this afternoon that the state constitution requires acting Governor Earl Ray Tomblin to set a special election for governor no later than November 15th, 1 year since Tomblin took over from now U.S. Senator Joe Manchin. The state held a special Senate election last November following the death of Senator Robert Byrd.
In our continuing coverage of Your Vote 2011, gubernatorial candidates in West Virginia have until Saturday to officially file for governor. House Speaker Rick Thompson filed his papers this afternoon, in addition to Republican Senator Clark Barnes, acting Governor Earl Ray Tomblin, and Arnie Moltes, a Kanawha County Democrat. The Secretary of State's office will draw names to determine the ballot position on Saturday.
I believe that you should try new things, try fresh things to see if it'll work. The turnout in the past has been so bad that there isn't any reason why we shouldn't try it. At our municipal elections past couple years, we've had a low turnout. And so a couple of my council members went to the legislature and asked them to check into vote by mail, which Oregon has done for years.
The race for West Virginia's next governor is on, and we now know whose name will appear where on the ballots. Today, a drawing was held at the Secretary of State's office, and this is a look at the ticket. On the Republican side, Bill Maloney tops the list, with Betty Ireland and Mitch Carmichael at the bottom. On the Democratic side, Earl Ray Tomblin takes the top spot, followed by Jeff Kessler. Natalie Tennant comes in at the bottom.
This subject is especially very special for me and personal to me as well, because I am the spouse of a United States service member scheduled to be deployed to Afghanistan in just a few months. My husband Eric will be leaving on April the 8th, and we have a special election coming up on May 14th. And before he gets to Afghanistan, he has several different stops in between. And so, of course, this is of special importance. And we, the people of West Virginia, are also very proud because we have a high number of citizens per capita who serve the military and serve our country as well, who come from West Virginia. West Virginians should be proud and have confidence in their election officials, whether on the state level or on the county level, because we've certainly met expectations that were placed on us in 2010 and for 2011, and it's trainings and seminars like this that allow us to meet those standards. Business owners or voters or citizens of West Virginia many times don't have time to get in their car, drive to Charleston, and then drive back. So this is an opportunity to be one-on-one with the folks from the Secretary of State's office and have their questions answered. And it's an opportunity for them to be able to focus on their product and not paperwork, and we're making that a whole lot easier for folks. This is a great collaboration among city officials and state officials. They came to us, they came to the Secretary of State's office wanting to find an alternative to get higher voter turnout, more cost efficiency when it came to conducting elections. And they asked for a vote-by-mail pilot project. So really what this is about is really moving elections forward and being part of the election process that is going to allow the opportunity for more folks to get out and vote and to really have cost-efficient measures for the city of Morgantown. Early voting is really a unique time for voters because the voters themselves get to choose when Election Day is. So for me, going to vote, this is Election Day, and it's an opportunity to get my vote in the books, if you will.
The Secretary of State's office announced final plans for Election Day this Saturday. Natalie Tennant says it's important for voters to be the eyes and ears at the polls when it comes to election law violations. Violations include voting more than once, campaigning for a candidate within 300 feet of a polling place, and using false identification. Tennant says this is the 4th statewide election within 12 months, and her office is ready to tackle any possible problems this weekend.
We know that we have folks from the Secretary of State's office who are going to be in all 55 counties, and we know that we have 55 county clerks, and they have trained very well those poll workers who are out and about. But you can't be everywhere all at the same time in these special primary elections.
Tennant also announced the final numbers for early voting. More than 43,000 people cast votes during the 11-day period. Now, the polls open Saturday morning bright and early at 6:30 and will close Saturday evening at 7:30 if you haven't yet voted. Stay tuned to Eyewitness News this week for complete election coverage.
First tonight, after weeks of campaigning, the votes are now in for the special election for governor in West Virginia. 6 Democrats and 8 Republicans were vying for the top job. On the Democratic side, Governor Earl Ray Tomblin started out strong and ended that way. Tomblin is now the Democratic nominee for governor. On the Republican side, the polls have been going in favor of Bill Maloney. Maloney pulled out a strong win over once former Secretary of State Betty Ireland, who was once considered the frontrunner. We start our team coverage tonight with Jessica Ralston, who joins us live from our Charleston studios.
Well, Governor Earl Ray Tomblin certainly has had a sizable leads going into the polls today, Sarah, and that trend continued tonight, as you saw there with those results. News Channel 3's Michael Hyland joins us live right now from the Charleston Civic Center, where Governor Tomblin sailed to a pretty easy victory tonight. Michael.
Absolutely, Jessica. It seemed early on as the results were coming in, it was pretty obvious the way things were going, and the trends really didn't change as the results were coming in. But let's talk to acting Governor Earl Ray Tomblin himself right now. We're also joined by the First Lady, Joanne Tomblin, as well. Tell me a little bit about tonight. Was there really one key issue in this race you think that swung it your way, or do you think Democrats just decided they didn't really want several governors in a short period of time?
Well, I think we put on a very aggressive campaign, and our message was to be able to create jobs and keep taxes low in West Virginia.
Republicans
Republican candidate Bill Maloney. Over the past couple of weeks, his poll numbers surged 15%. That strength carried through tonight. News Channel 3's Brad Myers joins us from Maloney's campaign headquarters in Morgantown, and he, of course, will start prepping for the general election after this upset victory. And we heard a little bit from his speech at 10 o'clock tonight. Let's go now to Brad.
Yeah, that's right, guys. I'm here in Morgantown. A big night for Bill Maloney and Bill Maloney's campaign. I'm actually joined now by Mr. Maloney. Mr. Maloney, first off, congratulations on the win. What do you credit this big push here to capture the Republican nomination?
Well, we just stuck to message, had a great game plan, great team, and we're in a fully funded, aggressive campaign, and it worked.
A member of the State Election Commission says the days of closed-door meetings are over, thanks to the internet and webcasting. Today, for the first time ever, the SEC webcast their regular meeting live on the Secretary of State's website. Folks from all around West Virginia were able to see live what was happening inside the Capitol. The SEC discussed public campaign finance issues, loan requests by counties, and legislation that could affect the voting process in West Virginia. It also appointed Robert Rupp as its new chairman.
I think any time we can increase the voters' knowledge of how the government works, the state wins. The days of that closed-door meeting, well, basically the internet has made that obsolete.
We certainly knew the impact that Senator Byrd had in his service to West Virginia, but even after his death, the impact that was still felt, especially here in this office where no other secretary or administration was ever faced with what we were faced with in terms of having unprecedented expectations that we met and exceeded with having these special elections. I'm so proud of the work that folks here in the office did along with county election officials in meeting and exceeding those expectations.
For the first time in its 107-year history, the National Association of Secretaries of State held its annual summer conference in West Virginia. Dozens of Secretaries of State came from around the nation to Glade Springs in Raleigh County to discuss issues ranging from election systems to business identity theft. West Virginia does have a strong connection to NASS. Not only is current Secretary of State Natalie Tennant the co-chair of the International Relations Committee, but the first president of the organization was Stuart Reed, who served as West Virginia's Secretary of State from 1908 to 1916. Back then, NASS was known as the Association of American Secretaries of State. The name was changed to NASS for good in 1921. This year's event began with a warm welcome to West Virginia from Secretary Tennant.
It has a huge economic impact when you have more than 200 people coming to an area to exchange ideas and have workshops, but at the same time take in some of the activities and the events that we have all over West Virginia and spend some of their money.
It wasn't long before the real business of the conference began. The first day focused on how Secretaries of State can help business owners protect the valuable data that belongs to them, their employees, and their customers.
We have to get the word out so that our small businesses in particular, but all of our business, but especially those 99% of the people who use our services, become aware.
Ohio Secretary of State John Husted highlighted the business profile offered by his office that shines the spotlight on Ohio businesses that have flourished over the years, possibly over decades.
We're trying to send a message during these economic times that we appreciate what businesses do to create jobs and to grow our economy. We want to change the culture of Ohio to let both the internal audience of state government know that it has to care about business, and our external audiences, the businesses around the state, to let them know we appreciate what they do.
The visiting secretaries got a bit of a history lesson on day one from former West Virginia Secretaries of State Helen Holt, Hike Heiskell, and Ken Heckler. They each told stories about their political careers before and after they held the office.
when this vacancy came available, or came about, and Governor Underwood wanted me to take the spot, I really didn't want to do it. And one of the reasons was that the present senator was almost on his deathbed, and I thought that maybe I'd like to wait for that.
And thanks to Richard Nixon's sweep of McGovern and Arch Moore's defeat of J. Rockefeller in 1972, coattail effect for an unknown kid from Morgantown kind of worked and got me close. But they put the election to bed the night of November 4th, 1972, with Nixon beating McGovern. The next morning's headline in the Charleston Gazette: Nixon beats McGovern, Moore beats Rockefeller, Tom Winter beats high school for Secretary of State. And it was not until the next afternoon, as I was packing up our campaign headquarters, that I got a call from Arch Moore. He said, "Do you see what's going on?" And I said, "No, what?" Well, despite the fact I'd studied political science at West Virginia University, what was happening was astonishing. West Virginia at that time had machine balloting in the southern counties, which were sometimes 13-1 Democrat to Republican. But in the northern counties, they were still doing hand ballots. So those latter results were just coming in. And that was a part of the state where I was very strong. So over the next 48 hours, it became a real horse race as those ballots were counted, and I came out ahead by roughly 1 vote per precinct statewide.
The second day of the conference focused on elections. Secretary Tennant showed how her office is using new technology like webcasting and social media websites to reach out to a new generation of voters.
I just think it's so important for me to recognize what type of tools people are using to communicate. So why don't we use those same resources, whether it's a webcast or the internet or a phone or Twitter or Facebook. I just think that that's the way that we can connect with people and how they're using technology today.
This is the last day of filing. This guarantees that it will go through the 2012 legislative session. The last day of filing for the agency approved is always this way. People wait to the last minute to bring them in, and it's always just piles and piles and piles of paper.
West Virginia's legislature has new congressional districts and boundaries for the Senate and House of Delegates. The House's redistricting plan increases single-seat districts from 36 to 47, and the other 53 seats remain in multi-member districts. Delegates amend the plan Friday to split a 7-seat district in Kanawha County into 2 districts of 4 and 3 seats.
Well, at least one fatal flaw has doomed legislation that redraws districts in West Virginia's House of Delegates. Acting Governor Earl Ray Tomblin said today he'll have to veto the bill due to technical errors, but he will call the legislature back into session next week to revisit the redistricting plan.
Aside from technical fixes, just one amendment passed. It put together a requirement in one of the multi-county districts that elected officials come from at least 2 different counties.
What I have done is assure that the 15,000 people in Raleigh County cannot override the decision of Summers and Monroe to send at least one person from either of those 2 counties.
I know personally, having a 9-year-old who doesn't understand really what 9/11 is, and trying to explain to her that she and the rest of these young children have the opportunity to show what we can do as a country and how we can stick together and do what is right and do what the principles of our Constitution talk about, and really be those weapons of peace and not weapons of war. This is an unprecedented election. We are setting history here with electing a governor. And while folks may say, well, this governor is going to only serve for 13 or 14 months, those are very important months. Think about the last 13 or 14 months in state government and in the history of West Virginia. So what happens with the next governor over these next couple of months will set the foundation for what takes place in our economy, what takes place for education, and how we're really going to move West Virginia forward. And this is where the people of West Virginia have their opportunity to say, this is where I want to set the foundation.
Election day for the special gubernatorial race in West Virginia now just 1 week away. And officials in Kanawha County say they're ready. This morning, the county clerk and commission held their first and final test of the voting machines. Everything worked, and the machines have been locked up now until Election Day.
It doesn't matter if 100 people voted, if 100,000 people voted, or if 1 million people voted. An election is the expression of our American rights and our ideals, and every single vote is sacred. And it is my duty as Secretary of State and the state's chief election official to make sure that election law is not being broken.
Your office is going to be working hard today fighting against voter fraud. What does that exactly mean for everyone?
Well, that's a good question. We have a comprehensive plan in place where we have folks from the Secretary of State's office who are out and about all over the state in all the 55 counties. They act as liaisons to observe or communicate or really assist if a poll worker needs it, even if a voter or a county clerk. And the important aspect of that is that we are all working together. You know, we can have so many people, and the counties can have so many people who are rovers out and about, but it really is the folks on the front lines who are now the voters. We all play an important role to make sure that election laws are not violated and that this is a fair and open and honest election. The retail industry had expressed concern that it was losing revenue because of the ban on liquor sales on Election Day, and there was even a report that we did that they lost upwards of more than $1 million on a particular Election Day. And it's really an archaic law that has been on the books for many years, and one that the legislature probably should have removed years ago.
With a big victory tonight. Good evening. I'm Jessica Ralston in Charleston.
And I'm Tim here in Huntington. We have been following West Virginia's special gubernatorial race all day long, so let's get right to it right now. A look at the results. Governor Earl Ray Tomblin carrying the win, kind of tight, 50% of the vote. Mr. Maloney coming in, claiming 47%. And here's a look at the third-party candidates who were in the race. Now, they gained only a very small chunk of the votes, but nonetheless, Bob Henry Baber with 2%, Marla Ingalls with 1%. Harry Bartram had about 1,000 votes across West Virginia.
Voter turnout was 25%. Not happy with 25% voter turnout. I would certainly love to have seen it a lot higher, but it was more than anticipated by some folks. And I'm so happy for the folks who did get out and vote. We had 57,000 people early voting who wanted to make sure that their voices were heard in this special historical election.
Well, Putnam County got a grant from the Secretary of State's office to help improve voting accessibility for those with disabilities. And today it was put to good use. Secretary of State Natalie Tennant presented county commissioners with a check for $4,800 as part of the Help America Vote Act. She says during the special gubernatorial election earlier this month, members of her staff found out some rural counties in the state need improvement in this area.
They also observed and took very good notes on the different polling places they visited to see if they were ADA compliant. And when they found one that wasn't, they talked to the clerk, and that is resulting in many county clerks now applying for these grants.
In my scene, it's been a long road, but today Earl Ray Tomblin finally took the oath of office to become West Virginia's 35th governor. But his path to get there wasn't an easy one. West Virginia's longest-serving Senator Robert C. Byrd died last year on June 28th. At that time, Joe Manchin was West Virginia's governor. Last November, Manchin was elected and sworn into the U.S. Senate to fill Robert Byrd's seat. Earl Ray Tomblin was serving as state Senate president when Manchin moved to Washington, D.C., which meant he was named acting governor of the state.
Topping our news tonight, after months of legal wrangling, the redistricting issue finally had its day in court.
Members of the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals heard arguments today from 5 lawsuits that challenge the legislature's proposed new district maps. For the latest, we turn to reporter Ann Eli, who has more from Charleston. Ann, good evening.
Hi, Kelly. The plan for the House of Delegates created 67 districts for 100 delegates. It rearranged Putnam County, it removed Monroe County's single-seat district, and it left Mason County without a delegate altogether.
At the Capitol today, West Virginia Supreme Court has upheld the state's legislative redistricting plans. The House and Senate measure had been challenged by many, including representatives from Putnam and Mason counties. Eyewitness News reporter Kenny Bass joins us live from the state capitol with all the details. Kenny.
Rejecting arguments that the redistricting process was unconstitutional and politically motivated, West Virginia State Supreme Court justices gave the green light to move ahead with the new boundaries.
And what did you think when I walked down the steps?
I thought he was coming back next week. So.
Was this a good surprise? You wanted it to happen on parents' luncheon?
I didn't know it was so.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, I missed you.
I missed you too, Dad.
Well, as you can see, 2011 was another historical year, not just for the state of West Virginia, but the Secretary of State's office as well. And where there were challenges, we met them head on and continued to move the state and this office forward. And for 2012, another good year coming up and a presidential election. So we'll be busy with that, along with the advances that we have in the Business and Licensing Division and other parts of this office. We look forward to serving you for another great year.